11th of August, and I can see what you're thinking when you look at this picture. We already have a tropical depression out here. This is the invest out here in the way in the eastern Atlantic, right off the Cabo Verde Islands, Cape Verde Islands. It looks like we may already have a depression or tropical storm out here, although it's quite small. I wouldn't be surprised if we get advisories here in a few minutes on this system, although this could be just a mid-level circulation. Not a lot of banding features, at least evident on this. But you can see the latest visible, the first light visible shows an extensive CDO, central dense overcast there. I'm kind of baffled why we don't have advisories on this yet, but National Hurricane Center are smarter than I am, so if they have the reasons here. Unfortunately, there is a radar site you can see this with, but it really doesn't tell us much. Like the Cape Verde Islands out here. Going back to the long wave IR, could see pretty impressive, quite small circulation. And what may happen is this may form and then dissipate and then reform again as we move through time. I don't foresee this intensifying too much, but given its small size, if it does become a depression or storm, who knows what will happen in the short term. But I think the forecast, like the track and forecast, and should remain the same really at this point. If we look at the air mass surrounding the system here, you see where the dark browns are, and the deeper colors, kind of milky colors. The brown is drier air, and the darker colors here are more moisture. It appears that this area has moisture surrounding it, but then right on the edge of it, you can see the ridge axis out here. A little bit of weakness, but this ridge is pushing down. What's going to happen is going to push it further westward, excuse me, over time. It's forecast to follow the easterlies, the westerly, sorry, the trade winds along the tropical Atlantic for quite a few days here. If this was actual system, we could look at the microwave output based on the cyclone, but because it's not a named storm or any kind of storm that the National Hurricane Center is watching right now, we can't look at that. Another thing you can look at as a tool here is the ASCAT, which shows it's a polar satellites that two different satellites go fly in polar orbits, and they go past systems here and show the winds at the surface. You can see this was at 0814 ETC, which not too long ago clearly shows a low level of circulation. You see winds in the north here. So we'll just have to see what the National Hurricane Center says. But this ASCAT, excuse me, still getting over a cold here, shows a really small circulation that just passed over these islands not too long ago. So this is valuable data to see here. So hopefully we'll have more information shortly from National Hurricane Center. This is the latest advisory here. This was as of 2 a.m. We have the one on disturbance AL96, which is has a 20% possibility of developing in the next 7 days, which it'll just be a fish storm. This is our main concern in the long term, given there's a lot of confidence that this will develop some point as it gets in the mid-Atlantic, the Western Atlantic Ocean. Where it goes after that, it's hard to say at this point, but that's the current forecast. We look at the Google DeepMind output here, along with European ensembles and high-res models. This is the same thing here. These are the tracks, potential tracks of the models. Greens are the weather next gen. Purple, I don't see it on there, but blue experimental model. Let's keep a depression for quite a while here. Maybe a storm by the time it gets to the mid-Atlantic, mid-southern Atlantic Ocean. They all want to get a tropical storm going. That's where the end of the European model ends. And then Cat 1, Cat 2, both the DeepMind, the graph, and the gen, and that's where that end of the graph. So the next gen wants to get Category 2 to Category 1 storm develop and go out to sea here. Recur pretty quickly to the north. So given that, let's look at all the different model outputs, European, American, and see what they have to say about it with the latest runs here. First, we'll look at the European model and see, guys, it's this is on the 18th. This is starting out tightly clustered along the Cabo Verde Islands there and Cape Verde. Once they move it a little bit south of due west, tightly clustered, and spreads out as it gets towards the north of Lesser Antilles. And of course, you expect it to be spread out. This is the EPS, right? This is the European ensembles, 51 members. It's definitely more clustered, closer together than it was. Definitely showing something going pretty strong here 5 days from now. So it's going to move across the Atlantic in about 5 days, end up here, and then we'll see how it goes. So the European operational run, it's a little bit on the north edge of the ensemble guidance with a tropical storm or low-end hurricane at this point in time here on the 16th. This is a model output. It's not a forecast, okay? So when we compare that to GEFS, this is a GFS ensemble. 16 it wants to be a little bit slower, but I mean they're in a very good agreement. There's going to be something out here north of the Lesser Antilles in 5 or 6 days. It's really amazing how much agreement there is on this. But of course, within the model itself, quite a bit of spread on members, although it would seem that they're getting honed in on recurvature here. Although there are members that stay to the left, members that stay to the right. There's still quite a bit of spread, but none of them, except for maybe a few, bring it into the continental U.S. at this point. Again, this is pretty far out. The trend has been further recurvature out to sea. But we all know that can change in 7 days, so we'll have to keep an eye on it. The GFS operational run, at this point, it wants to have a pretty strong hurricane moving northward into the northern tropical Atlantic, approaching the edge of the Gulf Stream waters, and quite a powerful storm at that point. Like once it really strengthened it right here off the southeast coast. At the very least, we'll see really bad rip currents and waves along the eastern seaboard in the coming days. And what about the European AI model? We kind of looked at that with the DeepMind here, but this is the latest run for it. Same thing. Wants to bring it across the Atlantic. You can see it out there on in the Cape Verde Islands. Move it along a level flow. Really wants to strengthen it and then move it out to sea. A little too close for comfort along the coast there. Canadian. This is as of the 19th. It has a storm out here. Icon, same thing, although this is one of the weaker solutions. It doesn't go much further out. Still strengthens it pretty quickly north of the Lesser Antilles. And again, this is a close-up infrared satellite loop of the system out here. I'm pretty impressed by this, so we'll just have to see what the National Hurricane Center says. If we look at the environment surrounding the system for the European IAL model, what you see here is the 500 millibar geopotential height anomalies. So the darker reds are the anomalies heights like for high pressure being above normal, and darker blues are below normal heights, which indicate lower pressure at 500 millibars. So today we have shown a little bit inverted trough here. This is a system, you follow it right here. High pressure in the central Atlantic, some different weak high pressure along the coast of the southeast, troughs, low pressure systems in the central Atlantic, low pressure up here in Canada. Wanting to build a trough and a road to high pressure, and the system feels its weakness and moves through the weakness up into the, and becomes extratropical, becomes a powerful extratropical storm. The GFS has a similar scenario here. Develops a system, low pressure, although it doesn't want to erode it quite as fast. Same scenario here. I'm really surprised at the model agreement at this point. It's really kind of unusual, I'll tell you that. So if we look at the humidity surrounding the system here, this gives a good indication of the environment. Like the browns, like I showed you, is drier air. The darker greens is more moist air. And tropical cyclones need that moisture in the mid-levels to develop. There's dry air surrounding it, but it seems to not get entrained in the system too much, although There's a little bit there on the southern edge as it moves through time. This is a GFS run. It really wants to intensify it, and you see it pulls in some dry areas. It moves in the mid latitudes, but that's not unusual either. So that factor seems to be mitigated by the system that moves through the flow here. If we look at the GFS model output for wind shear, there's your low pressure off the Cabo Verde Islands moving eastward in the flow. This is wind speed and streamline, excuse me, not wind shear. Not a lot of wind shear over top this system really until it moves towards the mid latitudes. You can see it as a good polar, equatorward outflow path, although, let's see, as we all know, outflow is important for a tropical system to develop, and as long as it has a way to evacuate its mass, it will keep strengthening. If we look at the, one more thing, we're going to look at the shear values over top this. Reds indicate higher wind shear, which is never good for tropical cyclone development. There is some wind shear to start off with, but there seems to be indication of high pressure right over top of it. Although it does develop a little bit of wind shear with a high pressure being to its north here before it reaches the Caribbean north of the Lesser Antilles. The equatorward flow really develops here. Gives it a nice outflow channel here. And that's likely one of the factors that leads to development here. Another thing to look at is the sea surface temps. And we told this before, they should be at least 26 Celsius or higher for a tropical cyclone to develop or to sustain itself. Although this where it is right now is right along the edge of the thermocline of 26C in colder waters. There could be other factors that are helping maintain it, a cooler upper level environment or a lot of diffluence aloft. However, if it stays in this environment here, that's likely what the models are picking up on, why it's not going to develop much more until it reaches the middle of the Southern Atlantic Ocean. So the takeaways from this are, close this. We have plenty of time to watch it. And, it's not going to harm anybody out here in the ocean it's going to be observable all week and see what happens to it. We don't know where it's going to go yet. The models are really in good agreement as to where it ends up in 5 to 7 days. But after that, forecasts become very uncertain. The large scale features, hard to predict this far out, especially with precision. You can get a broad idea of what might happen, but now's the time to be prepared.